everybody, this is Pam with Jesus Junk Journals, and it is Free Friday. So I am going to go back to this page that I glued all these pictures of these dogs on. I kind of challenged myself, and I think I have found a scripture to go on this page. It's from Romans 8, and some of you will probably be aghast that I'm putting this with this, but Romans 8, from like 18 to 23 probably, I'm looking at it on screen, talks about the creation, God's creation. And it says, for the anxious longing of the creation waits eagerly for the revealing of the sons of God. It says, for the creation was subjected to futility, not willingly, but because of him who subjected it, in hope that the creation itself also will be set free from its slavery to corruption into the freedom of the glory of the children of God. It says, for we know that the whole creation groans and suffers the pains of childbirth together until now. And so the scripture where it says that the creation itself also will be set free from its slavery, I think I'll just do that little phrase there. And so, as some of you may know, I've got a journal kit on heaven, and I've got this little addendum, and it's for pets, that pets go to heaven. And if you don't believe pets go to heaven, that's fine. And some of you do, and that's fine, and I do. And so I have about probably 8 scriptures I look to, and this is one of them where it talks about creation. That God's creation, you know, subject to death and so on and so forth, but that it is waiting eagerly for the revealing of the sons of God. And it says that the creation itself also will be set free from its slavery. So I am going to try to figure out what to do with this page. I think I am going to use some white. I'm going to use some of this white, cheap white paint from, I think this came from Dollar Tree. And I used it the other day. It's like hardly any pigment to it. It's so cheap. It's mainly just the medium that is mixed with the pigment. So it's really thin. Boy, I learned a big lesson the other day. I used a brush with the acrylic paint, and you know, I used to preach this all the time. I used to just go on and on about, you know, don't use your good brushes in acrylic paint. And if you do use your brushes in acrylic paint, be sure you wash them out, because the acrylic will ruin your brushes. Well, what did I do? But I left my brushes uncleaned, and they hardened, and you can't clean them once they're hardened with the acrylic paint, because it's like plastic. And so it was an ugly reminder, but fortunately it was just a cheap brush. But I need to remember, as I use this acrylic paint, to really not get lazy with the brushes. Okay, so I'm just kind of dabbing this paint on just because I really don't know what else to do. So I got a little bit of that going on. I will get my sprays out because I don't know what else to do. And here's Sunshine. This is some of that Dilutions shimmer paint. It's got mica in it that I bought last year that was a mistake. Yikes. What else? I'm looking at that green up there. Let's see if I got a green here somewhere. Of course, the thing is, these are like lime green. This is cut grass. I know it's the wrong green, but let me spray a little bit of it just for fun. So I'm just kind of increasing the challenge was what I'm doing, because I just am adding more crazy things to this. Tangerine green. Oh, that is orange. I already got orange. Okay, so I'm going to get my, where is my water spray? Get out my Lindy spray, the Stardust Starburst spray in green, cement green. I'm going to take my white golden high flow acrylic. Let's just go for it. See what happens when I put white. Oops. Well, nothing if I don't. So I've covered the dogs up. And by the way, I didn't show this on camera, but I used some clear gesso on top of these images so that whatever paint I put on would not soak into them. So they're sort of protected. Wow. I really covered him up, didn't I? So I covered him up, and now I'm trying to uncover these dogs. So they just sort of peek through, hopefully. So what this is doing is sort of, okay, so I'm in my mind, symbolic of dogs from days past, and they're sort of behind this. I've got Gossamer Gold. This is in the Lindy's Moonshadow Mist. These Moonshadow Mist sprays are all brown. And I didn't know that when I bought them, and I started spraying them, and they're supposed to be blue and green and brown or gold. And they all look brown. And I'm like, what did I do here? See how it looks brown? So what happens is once they dry, they have this shimmer, a cast of color that comes into them. But in the moment you're spraying them, they just look like brown. Okay, so I am going to let this dry. I've got this super wet. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll come back and figure out what I'm going to do. Okay, so here is another page that I worked on. I think I showed you this in another video. I started it, and so I gessoed it, and then I put these pages torn, and then I went over it with clear gesso because I want this to stand out eventually when the paint runs off of it and so on. So I'm going to, let's see. I've got this image here that I've been wanting to use. I wonder if I'll tell you what, I think I'll use it on, so this is my decoupage liquid that I make myself. It is 2 parts water, 1 part white glue. Generally, people who do art journaling, art journaling, they tend to use matte gel media as glue. But, you know, my junk journaling comes through. Oh, that's kind of cool. I like that one better, actually. And we always use the decoupage stuff. And so I kind of go back and forth between the two. I think they're all made out of about the same stuff overall. And I think I'm going to try to tear these women apart. So these pages are gesso, in case you couldn't tell. I used that gesso from the gallon jug that I bought. And, you know, I told you I got it for $22 for a gallon, so it's much cheaper than what you get at, like, even Walmart. Much cheaper. But I'm noticing that it's got this sort of beige color to it. It's not really white. So that's what you get for $22. But that's fine because I'm not interested in it for the color. I plan to go over it, so it's still working for me. and so much cheaper than the other gesso. Okay, so I'm going to let those dry. This is what keeps happening to me. I'll start to work on something, and then I end up having to do something else and let it dry. So, all right, so there goes that journal. So I will bring out journal number 3. And this is the one I did last time that I was so happy with because it has it's great color and texture. I'm not even sure you can see it all. Okay. I'm just going to start messing around with this. I've got this white. I'm going to have to get some more. I've used almost all of my white on this high flow acrylic. It comes in really handy. Wow. Oh, my pretty page I liked so much. Really covered it up. So I'm going to spray it off a little bit. Okay, so I'll leave that propped up and try to fill this up really quick. So the white will, you know, allow for words to be readable. So that's kind of one reason to use white. I am making a big old wet mess today, that's for sure. So I try to use cloth to absorb the inks and colors and things so I get double, or, you know, I don't waste anything. It's like it's going onto this cloth, which I will eventually use for a journal cover or journal page or something. But this one got soaked. So I am going to have to take it clear off, I think, to be able to work. So meanwhile, I just moved some of these pages to make room to lay that out to dry. I did some, oh, what do you want to call it? Franken paper or whatever you want to call it. Masterboard. Where I glued scraps to paper. So that was over there drying. Okay. Let's see what happens. If I do, I've got the Liquitex acrylic ink in turquoise, muted turquoise. So I'm just going to put a little bit here, see what happens. And I've got Amsterdam ink in olive green. And this is acrylic ink as well. So I'm going to put that here. And I meant to put painter's tape over my spiral because it's going to get all gloppy. And that can cause a problem later when I'm trying to turn the pages, but that didn't happen today. All right, I'm going back to my Lindy's Time Travel Teal. Get the mica all shook up. Let it drip out a little bit there. And I've got this Tim Holtz Cracked Pistachio Distress Oxide. This doesn't have any mica in it, and it's a really weird color. These have really kind of mystified me because they're very pale. Kind of want it to do that. I kind of want a little drips, so to speak. And those, when you put those on gessoed paper and let them dry, then you go back and you drip water on them, and they do really cool stuff. But it took me a really long time to get to where I liked it because it just seemed like it wasn't doing anything. Burnt sienna. Okay, that was an accident, but I thought, why not? Okay, that's it, really, for real. I'm gonna stop. Okay, so I thought I'd turn the camera back on because I had an accident. I got this fuchsia spray and it wouldn't spray, so I unscrewed the lid and it went all over. So what I did, I didn't want to waste it because you know how I feel about that, of all the crazy colors. So I just got a bunch of scrapbook paper and such. And I am just distributing it all over everything. And I'm sure this will be great when it's dried and oh, I still got a bunch left. So I'm just gonna go with it and just let it go and run. And so there's nothing subtle about this color, that's for sure. Anyway, I just thought I would show you what happened to me and what I've decided to do about it. And I've got this cloth down here that's going to absorb a bunch of it. There's the little rattling ball that makes it stir up that fell out when I opened it. So, accidental scrap paper. Yeah, so anyway, that's all I was going to show you about that. Okay, I kept playing with them and I sprayed them with water and let them run. And actually, they're looking kind of cool. So, happy accident maybe. Especially on these ones that I decoupaged or, you know, glued the strips to, because they're sort of sealed with the decoupage glue. So it's letting the paint reactivate and then run off, and you can still see what's underneath it. So yikes. These are just plain scrapbook paper. They didn't do a whole lot. They just kind of soaked into the paper, and that was the end of that. But these other ones are kind of interesting. If you don't mind the garish color, which I don't think I do. I think I kind of like them for a change. We'll see. So, let that run down. Here's this one. And then here's another piece of scrapbook paper. See that it didn't really do very much to it. But these it did. So I'm going to let these dry and go on to the next thing. Okay, so I'm back to the dog page. So after spilling that paint, it made me realize that I was being super timid on this dog page. I think I'm going to try maybe pouring a little bit of this on here and letting it be a little bit crazier. Because after these dried, you could still see the dogs really well. Because that was my concern. I didn't want to completely lose the dogs. So, let's see, what do I have? I've got a fresh lime, cut grass, polished jade. And so, ooh, I don't want to pour it. I think I'll still spray. And start to just mix up my greens. So here is the dry pages with that color. So I feel like when it dries, you can see what's behind it better. And I like that they're obscured, but you can still see the dog. So to me, it sort of feels like maybe the memory of dogs from the past. So I'm going to go over it with white and kind of put a hazy layer of that on, and then make a white spot for my words. And I think that will work for what I'm trying to convey here. Okay, as I was drawing that, I decided I would go a different direction. I've got these big letter stamps that are, I think, about that tall. And I'm going to stamp a different verse than I started with. I'm going to do just the phrase, man and beast you save, O Lord, which is from Psalm 36:6. And I'm going to use the big letters and just put them over this part of it. So I went back with white ink and water and made it a little bit lighter so that the letters would pop better. So that is the new plan. So let me get my letters out and my stamps, and I'll be right back. Okay. All right, well, that took about 4 different markers before I landed on the one that worked the best, which ended up being the Sharpie. And I'm okay with some splotchiness, but I want it to be readable, so I filled in the big chunks. And so I think that turned out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with that. And I'm going to move on. I may come back some other time and if I can think of anything I need to add to it. But I think that pretty much says it. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching me as I worked on this. And thanks for watching. And click the like button if you liked it. Think about subscribing. And I will see you on the next video. Bye-bye.